The wind moved across the empty trading post, carrying dust and old memories, and on the same broken road, a small alien girl stood like a lonely statue, and she stood there every single day, from sunrise to sunset, holding a tiny broken pendant in her hands, and nobody knew her name, nobody knew her story, and nobody knew why she waited there. But she never left that spot, not even for food, not even for shelter. Travelers passed by and whispered, "She has been waiting for years." And some said her parents were lost during a dangerous border raid. Others said they abandoned her, and some said a curse kept her frozen in time, but nobody dared to go near her, because her eyes were empty, yet filled with hope, like she was waiting for a ship that would never return. Daniel, a human merchant, arrived on the planet that week, and his ship landed with a soft thud near the old market. And he was tired from a long journey, ready to finish his business and leave again. But when he walked toward the trading post, he saw her, a thin little girl with pale skin and glowing marks on her cheeks. And she was staring at the sky as if she expected something to fall from it. Daniel stopped walking because something about her felt wrong, strange, and sad at the same time. And before he could think, he found himself stepping closer. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked softly, but she didn't react. She didn't move. She didn't even blink. She only tightened her grip on the pendant and whispered so quietly that Daniel almost didn't hear it. "They will come back." Daniel frowned, wondering who she meant, and he placed a small food pack on the ground near her feet, then stepped back because she looked scared of any closeness. But she finally reached down and took the food with trembling fingers, as if she hadn't eaten properly in days, maybe even longer. That night, Daniel asked locals in the nearby inn about the girl, and he was shocked by their reactions. Many looked uncomfortable. Some avoided the question, and others whispered warnings. "Leave her alone." One merchant said, "That child carries trouble," another muttered. "Her family crossed a powerful clan, and they paid for it." And one old alien spoke with fear in his voice. "She waits because she made a promise, and her people value promises more than life." Daniel couldn't sleep after hearing that, because he kept thinking about her thin frame, her quiet voice, and those hopeful eyes that refused to give up. And he knew that nobody should wait alone for years, not a child, not anyone. The next morning, Daniel returned to the trading post, but when he reached the road, he stopped immediately, because the ground around the girl's usual spot was torn apart. Deep, long claw marks scratched through the dirt and stones, like a dangerous creature had circled the area during the night. Daniel's heart tightened. Did something try to attack her? He whispered to himself, and he looked around nervously. But the girl was still there, standing in her same position, calm, untouched, and completely unharmed, almost as if something invisible had protected her. He walked closer again, and this time she lifted her eyes and looked directly at him. And he felt a strange pull inside his chest, a mix of concern and curiosity, because he knew now that this was not a normal child. And this was not a normal waiting. Daniel took a deep breath, knowing that something big was happening here. Something dangerous, something hidden, and something connected to her parents' disappearance. And he realized he could not just walk away anymore, because this lonely girl standing under the open sky had a story that demanded to be uncovered, and he decided, right there, that he would find the truth, no matter what it cost him. The sun rose slowly over the dusty valley, spreading a soft orange glow across the abandoned market, and Daniel walked toward the same road again, feeling a strange mix of worry and responsibility pulling him back to the little alien girl. And when he reached her usual spot, she was already there, standing with the same stillness, her eyes fixed on the horizon like she had been waiting all night. Daniel approached carefully and spoke gently. "I brought you more food." But the girl didn't answer at first. She only looked at his hands, making sure he kept enough distance. And Daniel placed the food pack on a rock before stepping back, giving her space. And after a moment, she reached for it with slow, hesitant movements. Her fragile fingers shook as she held the pack, and Daniel realized she had grown used to fear, to hunger, to waiting, and he felt a heavy ache in his heart. Wondering how long she had suffered like this, alone under the open sky. "What is your name?" Daniel asked softly, hoping she would trust him a little more. But she shook her head, clutching the pendant close to her chest. "They will come back," she whispered again, her voice barely a breath, as if those words were the only thing. Keeping her alive, Daniel kneeled slowly, staying several steps away so she wouldn't be scared. "Who will come back?" He asked. "Your parents." The girl nodded without looking up, her voice trembling. "Mama said, wait here. Don't move. Don't forget." And she pressed the broken pendant between her palms, as if it was a piece of her soul. Daniel studied the pendant more closely, noticing strange runes carved into the edges. Runes he didn't recognize, glowing faintly under the sun, and it didn't look like an ordinary toy or necklace. It felt important, ancient, maybe even secret. He tried to ask more questions, but the girl stepped back, fear rising in her eyes. "If I talk, they hear." "They always hear," she whispered, looking toward the dark mountains behind the market. And Daniel turned to look too, but saw nothing except empty rocks and wind-blown dust. That night, Daniel returned to the inn again, determined to find real answers. And he asked the same old alien who had spoken yesterday, "Tell me everything you know about her." The old alien sighed deeply and lowered his voice. Her family belonged to a small tribe that guarded hidden pathways in the mountains. Something the tribe refused to give: what happened to her parents. But the girl has waited ever since. Believing they would return, Daniel felt anger rising inside him. Anger at a world that could abandon a child like this, anger at people who called her cursed instead of helping her, and anger at the silent mountains that held more secrets than truth. The next day, Daniel brought a small blanket for her, but when he arrived, he froze again because near her feet were fresh footprints. Large and heavy, not human, not friendly. Cold fear crawling up his spine. "Did something come near you last night?" he asked. The girl only whispered, "They watch. They don't touch me." "Mama said they won't touch me." He looked around, feeling eyes hidden somewhere in the shadows, watching both of them, waiting for something. And a sudden thought entered his mind, sharp and frightening. Was she being protected or hunted? Daniel stood beside her, closer than before, promising himself silently that he would not leave her alone again. Not until he knew the whole truth, and as the wind blew dust across the empty road, he understood that this journey was. He was part of her story now, whether he wanted it or not. Night settled over the empty market like a dark blanket, and Daniel sat inside his small rented room, staring at the ceiling while the sounds of the planet echoed outside. Strange wind, distant animal cries, and the low hum of old machinery. And no matter how hard he tried, he could not forget the frightened look in the girl's eyes. He knew she was hiding something, something she could not explain. Something too heavy for a child to carry. And Daniel finally stood up, grabbed a small lantern, and walked quietly toward the road where she waited each day, because he needed answers, and he needed to know what danger circled her every night. When he reached the trading post, he stayed hidden behind a broken wall, watching from the shadows. The night was silent, too silent, and the air felt thick with something cold and invisible, and Daniel felt the hair on his arms rise. The girl was there, sitting on the ground with her knees pulled to her chest, clutching the pendant, her eyes staring into the darkness as if she expected someone or something to come out of it, and Daniel's heart tightened when he saw how small she looked under the vast night sky. Suddenly, A soft growl came from the rocks nearby, low and sharp, and Daniel froze, waiting, listening. And from the edges of the shadows, he saw shapes moving, not one, but many long creatures, lean, with glowing eyes that reflected the lantern light, but none of them stepped closer. They only circled the girl like silent guards. Daniel held his breath, watching in disbelief. Why? Don't they attack her? He whispered to himself, because those creatures looked dangerous, hungry, and wild. Their claws scraping the ground, their teeth sharp enough to break bone, but they kept a perfect distance around her. The girl slowly raised her head and whispered, "To the night, Mama said they will not harm me," and Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. Because she was speaking not with fear, but with certainty, as if she knew these monsters for years, as if they were part of the world her parents had left behind. Daniel waited until the creatures faded into the dark, their glowing eyes disappearing, one by one, and then he stepped out. Careful not to startle her. "I saw them," he said quietly. "Why do they protect you?" The girl hugged the pendant tighter, whispering they were told to watch. By who? Daniel asked. She didn't answer, her small body trembling, not from cold, but from the fear of speaking too much. Daniel looked around and noticed strange marks on the rocks. Symbols carved deep, symbols that glowed faintly under the starlight. And they were not random scratches. They were runes, old and powerful. The kind used for protection or warning. He knelt down and touched one of the symbols, and as his fingers traced the lines, he felt a weak pulse of energy, almost like the stone was alive, and he pulled his hand back quickly. "Someone marked this place," he whispered. "Someone who didn't want anything to harm you." The girl nodded slowly. "Mama," she said. "Papa too." They made the circle before they left. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. "Your parents knew something was coming," he said. "They tried to keep you safe." The girl finally turned toward him, her voice small but steady. "I wait here because they told me someone kind would come, someone who would help me." Daniel felt his heart squeeze, because he finally understood that this was more than a simple promise, more than a lost child waiting, more than a mystery. This was a message, a plan, a hope left behind by two parents who didn't know if they would survive. "Do you think I am the one they meant?" Daniel asked softly. She nodded, as if she had known from the moment she first saw him. "You came back," she whispered. "No one else ever comes back." Daniel looked at the dark mountains, the glowing runes, the empty road, the lonely child. And he knew he could never leave her again, not after seeing the truth. Not after seeing the shadows that watched her every night, he whispered to himself. "I'm part of this now," and he sat beside her, ready for whatever the night would bring next. Asterisk morning lights slowly touched the mountains, turning the sharp rocks gold, and Daniel walked beside the girl as she returned to her usual spot, her small feet leaving soft marks in the dust. And he kept looking around, remembering the glowing eyes from the night before, remembering the runes, remembering the fear he felt, but also remembering the strange protection around her. The girl sat down quietly and held her broken pendant in both hands, and Daniel watched closely, noticing how carefully she touched it, like it was the most valuable thing she owned. And maybe it was because her parents gave it to her before they disappeared. Daniel sat a few steps away and spoke softly. "Can I see the pendant?" The girl hesitated, fear rising in her eyes again, but Daniel smiled gently and placed his own tool bag on the ground, showing he meant no harm. And after a long moment, she slowly reached out and handed him the tiny piece of metal, her fingers trembling as she let it go. Daniel held the pendant in his hands, turning it under the sunlight, and he realized it was not just a toy or a necklace. It had hidden layers, tiny screws, and old designs that looked like technology mixed with ancient Symbols and the crack running down the middle looked repairable. "I can fix this," Daniel whispered. "Do you want me to?" The girl nodded quickly, hope sparking in her tired eyes. Daniel used a small tool to open the back of the pendant, and when the cover slid off, a soft blue light glowed inside. Surprising him, inside was a tiny crystal, shining with quiet energy. And it wasn't broken at all. "This isn't normal tech," Daniel muttered. "This is something else." The girl leaned closer, whispering, "Mama said it protects and remembers." "Remembers what?" Daniel asked, but she did not answer. Or maybe she didn't know. Daniel gently pressed one of the sides, trying to reconnect the cracked part, and suddenly the crystal flickered, then projected a small floating image above his hand, and Daniel gasped because the image was a recording, showing to aliens tired and wounded, but clearly her parents holding the same pendant. Their voices were weak, and the mother spoke first. "If our daughter finds this, then we did not return in time." Daniel felt the girl beside him freeze, her breath shaking. The father continued, "Little one, listen. Stay at the spot we told you. Stay inside the ruins. Stay safe. We will come back if we can." The mother added, her voice breaking, "And if we cannot, someone kind will find you. Someone who carries a clean heart." The recording ended, and the crystal dimmed. And Daniel slowly looked at the girl, feeling a strange weight in his chest. "They left this message for you," he said softly. The girl hugged her arms tightly, whispering, "They promised. They will come back." But her voice sounded more like a wish than certainty, and Daniel felt a deep ache inside him. Wondering how long she had survived with nothing but hope, he took a slow breath. "Your parents didn't abandon you," he said. "They were trying to protect you." The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. Since she had spent years learning how to be strong. Daniel looked at the runes surrounding the lonely road, the strange protective creatures, the recording, the pendant, and everything suddenly connected like pieces of a puzzle. Her parents weren't random victims of a raid. They were hiding something important, something someone else wanted badly. "Do you know why they were attacked?" Daniel asked carefully. The girl shook her head. "Mama said, bad people want what we guard." "What did your family guard?" Daniel asked gently, but she didn't answer. She only pressed the pendant to her chest, as if the secret was buried deep inside the tiny crystal. Daniel looked at the mountains again, feeling a cold shiver in his spine, because he realized the truth. Whatever her parents guarded, whatever they protected, whatever secret they left behind, it was inside the pendant, and now he understood why dangerous creatures circled her at night. Why runes were carved around her spot. Why everyone avoided her. She wasn't just waiting for her parents. She was guarding something powerful without even knowing it. Daniel whispered, "You're in danger, and I have to keep you safe." The day was calm, the sky soft and blue, but Daniel felt a strange heaviness in the air as he walked beside the girl. Her pendant hanging around her neck again, glowing faintly after the repair, and Daniel kept replaying the recording in his mind, the tired voices of her parents, their fear, their warning, their hope that someone kind would find her, and he wondered if he was strong enough to carry the responsibility they left behind. The girl sat at her usual spot like always, but today her eyes were different, more alert, more nervous, as if she sensed something coming before Daniel did, and he asked softly, "Are you okay?" She only whispered, "They are near," before Daniel could ask who she meant. A sharp humming sound echoed across the valley, and dust began rising from the far end of the road. A heavy vehicle approaching fast, its engine roaring like an angry beast, and Daniel stood quickly, pulling the girl behind him, his heart pounding hard in his chest. The vehicle stopped a few steps away, and several tall aliens stepped out. Wearing dark metal armor with glowing red marks, their faces stern and cold, like warriors who had spent their whole lives fighting, and their leader, a towering figure, with silver scars across his jaw, stared directly at the girl. "There she is," the leader growled, his voice deep and rough like broken stone. The last child of the Mountain Keepers, Daniel moved in front of her, blocking their view. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The leader smirked. "We are the ones wronged by her family." He said, "They stole something that belonged to us." Daniel shook his head. "Her parents didn't steal anything," he said. "They were protecting her." The leader laughed a cold, cruel laugh. "Protecting her." He said, "No human. They were hiding from their crime." His soldiers spread out, circling Daniel and the girl like hunters, preparing for a kill. And Daniel felt the ground shake slightly under their heavy boots. But he stood tall, refusing to move aside. The girl's voice trembled as she whispered, "Don't let them take me." Daniel gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "I won't," he said. Surprising himself with the strength in his own voice, the leader stepped closer. Face filled with anger, "Human, this is not your fight," he growled. "Move aside, and you may leave alive." Daniel shook his head. "She is a child." He said, "You won't touch her." The leader's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Her parents carried knowledge your kind cannot even understand," he said. "Their pendant holds the key to what we seek." Daniel's breath caught, his body going cold. "You know about the pendant?" he whispered. The leader smirked. "We have always known." He raised his hand, signaling his soldiers to step forward, and Daniel felt panic rising, knowing he couldn't fight armored warriors alone. But before he could react, the ground around them began to tremble, soft at first, then stronger, and from the shadows near the rocks, the same glowing-eyed creatures from the previous night emerged, dozens of them, growling, hissing, surrounding the area, their bodies tense, ready to attack, but not Daniel, not the girl, only the armored soldiers. The leader snarled, "Even the beasts protect her." Daniel stepped back with the girl, keeping her close. "It's the runes," he whispered. "Her parents created this protection." The creatures growled louder, claws digging into the dirt. And the soldiers lifted their weapons nervously. Suddenly unsure, because they were not prepared to face wild guardians of the mountains, the leader pointed at the girl again. "Give her to us, and we will leave." Daniel shook his head. "Never." The girl held the pendant tightly, her voice a broken whisper. "Mama said the bad ones would come." The creatures lunged forward in unison, and chaos broke out. The soldiers stumbled back, trying to defend themselves, but the beasts were faster, stronger, fearless, and Daniel pulled the girl into his arms. Running with her behind a broken wall for safety, he held her tightly, breathing hard. "I won't let them take you," he whispered, and the girl trembled in his arms, whispering back, "You came back. You stayed. You're the kind one Mama talked about." Daniel stared at the battlefield unfolding. Knowing this was only the beginning, the enemy had returned. And they would not stop, because whatever secret was inside that pendant, they wanted it desperately, and Daniel knew he had to uncover the truth before they came again. The dust from the fight slowly settled across the valley, and Daniel kept the girl close as the last growls of the mountain creatures faded into the distance, and the armored soldiers fled back to their vehicle, racing away before the beasts could tear them apart, leaving behind only fear, broken stones, and deep marks in the ground. Daniel's heart was still beating fast, his breath short, his hands shaking slightly as he checked the girl for injuries. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head slowly, her eyes wide with shock. "They came for the pendant," she whispered, and her fingers clutched it tightly again, as if she feared it might be taken any moment. Daniel sat on a rock, trying to understand. "Everything, your parents were not simple travelers," he murmured. "They were running from someone. Hiding something important." The girl lowered her head, whispering, "Mama said. Some secrets must not fall into wrong hands." Daniel looked at the glowing runes carved into the rocks around them, feeling a strange energy humming under his feet. "Your parents created these protections," he said. "They knew the enemies would follow you." The girl nodded weakly. "Papa made the circle. Mama made the beasts listen." Daniel stared at her, shocked. "Your mother controlled those creatures." "Yes," the girl whispered. "She was a keeper. She could speak to the mountains." A sudden gust of cold wind moved across the road, and Daniel shivered, realizing the truth behind her words. Her parents were not just running for their lives. They were guardians of something powerful, something sacred. And he now understood why the enemy clan wanted the pendant so badly. Daniel took a slow breath. "What exactly is inside the pendant?" he asked gently. The girl hesitated, her voice shaking. "I don't know. Mama never told me. She only said it was the heart of the mountain." "The heart of the mountain," Daniel repeated, confused. The girl touched the crystal softly. "When it shines, the mountain remembers," she whispered. "It shows things, shows the past. Maybe the truth." Daniel carefully held out his hand. "Can I try to activate it again?" She hesitated, but after a moment, she placed it in his palm, trusting him completely now, and Daniel gently pressed the side panel like before. But this time, the crystal glowed brighter, filling the air with a soft blue light. A new projection appeared, larger and clearer than the last, showing the inside of a hidden cave, glowing walls, and her parents standing beside a giant stone structure shaped like a heart. Pulsing with ancient energy, her father spoke with urgency. "They are coming for the core. They believe it will give them power," her mother added, "but the heart is not a weapon. It is a memory, a bridge to the old guardians. If it breaks, the mountains will fall silent." Daniel felt a chill move through his bones, understanding the danger. The enemy clan didn't want to protect their land. They wanted to control it, use the ancient power for themselves. And the pendant was the key to finding the hidden heart. The recording changed again, showing her parents leaning close to the camera, their faces full of love and fear. Her mother whispered, "Little one, if we cannot return, trust only the kind one, the one who does not run away." And her father added softly, "He will help you finish our promise. He will help you reach the mountain." The projection faded, and silence filled the air. Heavy and emotional, the girl covered her face with her hands, tears finally falling. The weight of her parents' message breaking the strength she had held for years. Daniel gently put his arm around her. "Hey, you're not alone," he whispered. "Your parents trusted someone would come. And I'm here now." The girl slowly looked up, her voice quiet but stronger than before. "Will you help me find them?" Daniel nodded without hesitation. "Yes, I will," he said, his voice steady. "We will go to the mountains, to the heart, to finish what they started." The wind grew colder, as if the mountains themselves heard his promise. And Daniel knew that the journey ahead would be dangerous, but he also knew he could not turn back anymore. Because the truth was clear now, this was not just her parents' promise. It was his too. Asterisk, asterisk. The cold wind rolled down from the mountains like a warning, and Daniel held the girl's hand as they walked toward the edge of the valley. Their steps slow but steady, and the pendant glowed softly against her chest, guiding them toward a place she had never seen, but somehow always felt. The mountains stood tall in front of them, sharp, ancient, and silent, as if they had been waiting for this moment too, waiting for the return of the keeper's child. And Daniel felt a strange nervousness rising inside him, because he knew that what waited inside those mountains would change everything. When they reached the first stone bridge, the girl stopped, her eyes wide. "This path. Mama showed me in a dream," she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand. "Then we follow it," he said calmly, even though his heart was pounding hard. As they stepped onto the bridge, the pendant pulsed with brighter light, and the runes carved into the stone began to glow, forming a trail that led deeper into the mountains. And Daniel realized that her parents had planned all of this. Every protection, every message, every sign. After a long and difficult climb, they reached the hidden entrance of the cave. The same one shown in the recording. Giant stone doors carved with ancient symbols. And when the girl touched the pendant to the center of the door, the stone shifted with a deep, rumbling sound, slowly opening inside. The cave glowed with blue reflections bouncing off the crystal walls, and Daniel felt like he had stepped into another world. A world older than any human colony, older than any modern map, and in the center of the cave stood the heart of the mountain, a giant stone core beating with soft, living light. The girl stepped forward slowly. Her eyes filled with awe. "Mama and Papa stood here," she whispered. Daniel nodded gently. "Yes. And now you are here to finish their promise." But before they could move closer, a loud explosion echoed from behind, rocks falling from the walls. And Daniel spun around to see the armored enemy clan entering the cave. Weapons raised, their leader stepping forward with fury in his eyes. "I warned you, human," the leader growled. "The heart belongs to us." Daniel pushed the girl behind him. "No, it doesn't," he said firmly. "It belongs to her people." The leader raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the pendant glowed impossibly bright, and the entire cave shook. The mountain guardians awakened, our glowing eyes appearing from the walls themselves, emerging like spirits of stone and light. Surrounding the intruders, the leader snarled, but fear finally entered his voice. "This place is alive," he whispered. Daniel stood his ground. "Her parents protected it," he said, "and now she will too." The girl walked toward the heart of the mountain, lifting the pendant high, and the light from the core reached toward her like a living hand, touching the crystal gently, and suddenly, the entire cave glowed with a warm, powerful beam. Visions filled the air, showing her parents one last time. Smiling proudly, her mother's voice echoed softly. "Little one, you found the kind one," her father added. "Now the heart is yours to guard. And your future is your own." The pendant dimmed slowly, its final message delivered. And the mountain guardians roared loudly, forcing the enemy clan to flee. In terror, running back through the collapsing tunnels until they disappeared completely from sight. Daniel rushed to the girl, kneeling beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded, tears falling down her cheeks at last. "They're gone." "But they're not gone," she said, touching her heart. "They're here." Daniel smiled softly, wiping her tears. "And you're safe now." The girl looked up at him with deep, sincere eyes. "You came for me. You stayed. You protected me, like Mama said the kind one would." Daniel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I made a promise too," he whispered. "I'll stay by your side." The cave glowed gently around them, peaceful for the first time in years. And as they walked out of the mountains together, the girl looked at the sky with new hope. She was no longer waiting. She was no longer alone. Her story had changed forever because one human arrived and gave her a future asterisk.